If you're unsure which level of English to put your student in, I'm going to try and break it down a little bit for you here. English 1 is discovery, and this is more of an upper elementary, really lower middle school class. A really advanced fifth grader would do well here, but a sixth grader is really ideal. A seventh grader who needs a little bit of support in learning the really basics of English and grammar would do well in English 1. A fifth grade reading level is required. We work on writing sentences, good solid sentences, simple and compound in English 1. And we just really want to cover, I want them to come into English 1 knowing like nouns and verbs and adjectives, and then we cover the rest. But English 1 is really basic. English 2, we jump to definitely a middle school class. An elementary school student would not do well in English 2. We move a little bit too fast and a little bit too deep. So 7th grade, ideal. 6th graders do well with this. 8th graders could do well with this as well. 7th grade is right in the sweet spot though. We really want students to come into English 2 knowing most of their parts of speech and subjects and predicates, because we move deeper into that world and we start to cover things like complex sentences in English 2. We work on writing paragraphs. So if a student comes into English 2 knowing how to write good solid sentences by themselves, we build into paragraphs. If they come in knowing how to write a simple paragraph, we build on that. English 3 is kind of a big jump from English 2 to English 3 in workload. We start to do more vocabulary work in English 3. If a student can memorize 10 words for a vocabulary lesson, pretty much per week, that's what we do in English 3. We start to write essays in English 3. So a student coming into English 3 needs to know how to write a paragraph on their own, like a 5 to 7 sentence paragraph. They need to know their parts of speech whenever they come into English 3. We review all of them in each of these classes, but having that real good base is what we want. We work with the subjects and predicates again. We work with phrases. We really dig into compound and complex sentences in English 3, but the workload is definitely high school level. It's actually an NCAA-approved class for high school. So an 8th grader does great in this class as well, though, if they're to that level. English 4 is definitely a high school level class, and a pretty advanced 8th grader could do English 4, but it is NCAA approved as well as a high school course, and we have an even bigger jump between workload. We have 25 vocabulary words per lesson per week in English 4, so quite a lot more studying and memorization and vocabulary. We do bigger essays. We do actually 3 large essays in English 4. They're going to be 5-paragraph essays, but we do research elements in there too. So it's a student coming into English 4 needs to be able to write a 5-paragraph essay pretty much on their own and be able to vary sentence structures and things like that. And again, we cover grammar from start to finish in English 4, but I want them coming in knowing all their parts of speech, knowing subjects and predicates really well, knowing mostly, phrases, being able to tell the difference between a simple compound complex and a compound complex sentence. So it's kind of a bigger leap. And that will be the highest comprehensive English that your student will likely take in high school is English 4. After English 4, they start to specialize into different literature classes and writing classes, or a combination of the two, to get their English credits. And so this is not English's freshman through senior, as some school districts want to call it. This is really, going from middle school to high school English. And now English 3 and English 4, I have had any age level pretty much in high school take English 3 and English 4, especially if they need those foundations of English in those levels. If you don't start your student in English 1, let's say that you found us at an older age and your student is already in ninth grade, can they jump into English 4? Can they jump into English 3, not having the others down the lower levels? And the answer is absolutely yes. They can jump in and get used to the format very quickly, and as long as they have those benchmarks that I just talked about, then they'll be ready for those English classes, and we have a good time when we learn. So thanks for watching.